The focus right now is what is law enforcement, and does law enforcement have to help law enforcement? Is ICE allowed to go into Chicago? Is it allowed to go into Portland? Can you send the National Guard in? And if they get surrounded by a bunch of angry people, should the local police respond when they call 911? There's a lot there. Because there's a lot there, I've got to talk to an expert. Sheriff Grady Judd, Polk County, Florida. Sheriff, I love having you on. How you doing?
I'm doing perfect. How are you today?
I'm doing very well. As you sit back and watch what's happening in Portland, where the Portland police literally were giving instructions to Antifa on how to illegally protest, when you got police in Chicago who literally, it's not just me saying literally, they actually on audio tape said, we are not going to respond to a bunch of federal agents surrounded by an angry mob. What do you think when you hear all that?
Well, it tells me it's the degradation of the police department and the community is not safe. Listen, when the police won't back up the police, do you think the police will back up the community? And I can tell you that police officers run into danger. That's their DNA. So when they act like that, you can believe that they are receiving information from their political bosses.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, I know true cops. And in Chicago and Portland, you've got a red hot mess going on there. It's a sad state of affairs.
What is the normal relationship between the feds and the locals or the counties or the state? And I ask you in this manner. I know that it says all issues of naturalization are up to the federal government. That's why you've got a DHS. That's why ICE is within that and Border Patrol is within ICE. What is the relationship supposed to be?
Yeah, the relationship that's supposed to be is that we assist our brothers and sisters, no matter whether it's state law enforcement, city law enforcement, or federal law enforcement. Listen, the bottom line is whether you agree with the law or not, as a law enforcement officer doesn't give you the right to ignore it. And when federal law enforcement officers, police officers, are enforcing the federal law and they need our assistance, our job is to go to them and help. Otherwise, anarchy reigns, anarchy rules. And the people that are sitting in the suburbs of Portland and Chicago that are not being directly affected, understand this is a cancer that you're experiencing. It's a cancer that will continue to spread if you don't make a positive difference. You need to elect new leadership. You need to have those that are in charge of the police telling them, help the federal government do their job. Don't run from the federal government in their time of need.
Sheriff Grady Judd, Polk County, Florida. PolkSheriff.org is the website. Love every video you put out. I love the job you're doing for Polk County, Florida. I think I told you this before. My brother-in-law is actually from Polk County, Florida. He's a lieutenant now in Palm Beach County. So as we watch what's unfolding in Washington, D.C., we know federalizing the police works. We know that the residents there are much safer. We know that the propensity of crime in that area is black on black crime. So black people in that area in D.C. are very happy. Good, peaceful black people are very happy to see crime going down. I think carjackings are down 86%. Murder is down 50%. Sheriff, we know it works. Why exactly wouldn't Pritzker want the same thing in Chicago?
Well, because he's afraid. He's politically afraid that if a Republican president comes in here, gives the law enforcement officers assistance, it becomes a safer community, then he'll lose votes. You see, that's his big concern, is that people in the community will find out that the president's system works.
Right.
Listen, if you're overrun with crime, you don't care where your help comes from, whether it comes from another state law enforcement agency, another county agency, a federal agency, or some guy on the back of a garbage truck.
Right.
You need help keeping people safe. But this is all about politics. And the politics they're worried about is that it will show the community you can be safe. You don't have to be at risk.
I'm not a politician, so maybe I don't get it. If I were Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago, or J.B. Pritzker, the governor of Illinois, why wouldn't I say, yeah, that's working. We're going to team up with the president, lower crime in your neighborhoods, vote for me again next time. I mean, wouldn't that be a better deal than to pretend there's no crime here, there's no problem here, we don't need his help? I I mean, the people see what's happening on the streets every day. We know this past weekend we probably had another 25 or 30 shot and probably several dead in Chicago. Why not, as a politician, say, you know what? I'm going to call in President Trump. It's my decision. Vote for me again next time. Wouldn't that be smarter?
Oh, absolutely, it would be smarter. I've asked this question for years. Why does the liberal left think more of the criminal that's victimizing the good, honest, hardworking citizen,
Right.
as opposed to looking out for the good, honest citizen and holding the criminal accountable? That's the question. But you see, the people don't know any different. So how do they get away with that? Well, they get away with it because crime does not affect the critical mass of the millions of people around Chicago. If so, it wouldn't be that way. And
Right.
after all, oh, it's happening over there. But listen, every human being is special. Every human being is God's child. And it's our job to keep everyone safe. And if I were the mayor of Chicago, then I would look at the police chief and I would say, hey, get all the help you can from wherever you need to. Let's make sure that we send these bad guys to prison for a long time and make this community safe. But the reality of it is, the people in Chicago are just pawns in his game, and he doesn't care if young black kids are shot. He doesn't care. He just wants to keep political control. Well, you know where I come from. Every child is special.
Yeah.
Every child deserves to be protected. And if there's danger and violence in the African American community, we need to be there supporting the African American community. If it's in the brown community, we need to be there. If it's in the white community, we need to be there. We need to care. And do you know what? The majority of the people in Chicago are good, hardworking people,
Yes.
but they're scared to death because there's no leadership. And I saw the chief get up and say on a Monday morning after that horrible, we're not going to help
Right.
the federal police, oh, our policy is to help. Well, that may be your policy, but that's not what's happening on the ground. That's a failure in leadership.
And nobody got fired. Sheriff, what would you do if a deputy sheriff, sergeant, or lieutenant said, we're not going? Would that person have a job?
Well, I can tell you on Saturday, if one of my chiefs had made that decision, he wouldn't have been working for me on Monday morning. He would have gotten fired over the weekend.
Sheriff Grady Judd, what do you do with a mayor like Johnson? Then you got, I think, Johnston in Denver. Then you got the person in Portland. Mayor is literally saying we're not going to. Say we will never, ever, ever, never help ICE. And then governors saying things like, take out your phone, protest. When ICE shows up, you get in their faces. Are they breaking the law, do you think, or are they just saying things?
Well, they are enabling criminal conduct, and they're right on the border. And the reality of it is the majority of the people in Denver, Portland, Chicago, California, you've got to elect different leadership.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, you like criminals keeping you scared to operate, to live. You know, the reality of it is you get what you elect. So if you live in one of those communities, it's because you elected leadership that enables criminal conduct and criminals. You come to Florida, the free state of Florida, we don't have that kind of nonsense going on. And the difference is we have leadership here that says we're going to look out for everybody. We're going to keep everybody safe. And if you're a criminal, we're going to lock you up, period.
It's Sheriff Grady Judd, of course, Polk County, Florida. Go to polksheriff.org. We always appreciate the time and the access. I want to talk about the fact that, and I know this is a fact, but I want you to elaborate if you don't mind, that every single person who crosses the border illegally has committed a crime. It is literally a crime. If you leave and come back, that could be a felony if you've been deported once, but it is not a civil matter. And people argue this whole civil versus criminal stuff as if that matters. It doesn't. If I get a speeding ticket, it's a civil matter. If I don't pay the ticket, I'm going to be facing crimes. So when somebody crosses the border, if you don't mind, just let everybody watching and listening understand that 100% of the people who did that illegally are criminals.
No, they're not. And let me explain that.
Okay,
the federal government has chose not to deal with them criminally. They've decided to deal with them civilly unless they are repeat offenders. That doesn't mean they're not violating the law, because they are violating the law. but they're charging them civilly. That doesn't mean that they can stay in the country.
Right.
It's not like a traffic citation. A federal civil arrest can occur and you can be deported, and that's what's occurring now. But they could have dealt with them as a criminal misdemeanor the first time. They chose not to. They dealt with it as a civil offense.
Well,
And
I
the
got
second time
let
as
me
a
stop
criminal
you.
offense.
Let me stop you because that's amazing information. You and I both know that 8 USC 1325 says it is a criminal misdemeanor to come across the border illegally, even the first time. You're telling me that, like under Biden, they dealt with them as civil offenses, not criminal? I didn't know that.
That's correct. That's correct. See, they keep them out of the criminal courts. They
Wow.
have them in the civil immigration courts. Yes, you're right. The first time across can be dealt with as a misdemeanor federal offense, but they
Right.
have chosen to deal with it as a civil offense. And
Wow.
that's part of the conundrum we're in today.
It is Sheriff Grady. Listen, I love that we just got that information. Sheriff Grady Judd. So when you've got people in Florida who are there illegally, can you on a state level do something, or you always have to join forces with the feds when it comes to immigration? I know that Arizona, Jan Brewer tried to do SB 1070, which was another immigration law, and Obama and Holder actually sued her and won, saying in federal court it's our purview, and then they didn't uphold the law. If the federal government doesn't do its job upholding the law, can you on a county or a state level do anything about that?
No, it's called the Supremacy Clause.
Wow.
We also passed similar legislation here, and the courts ruled against us. They said clearly and unequivocally the enforcement of immigration law is a federal responsibility and only a federal responsibility. We are allowed to help ICE, and that's what we do all across the state of Florida, and that's what should be happening all across the United States of America, helping ICE. But we cannot enforce federal immigration law unilaterally at a local or state level.
I mean, that is a conundrum big time, because if the federal government decides, and Obama did decide this, so did Biden, not to uphold the laws, you can't intercede and say, well, we're going to do it. Because I know here in Texas, Greg Abbott did say we're going to start doing it, started passing laws that kind of were in the gray area. But you literally can't do anything if the federal government says we're just not going to uphold the laws.
No, that's exactly right when it comes
Wow.
to the federal immigration law.
Crazy. It is Sheriff Grady Judd, Polk County, Florida, polksheriff.org. Let me talk to you about the crime wave across the country, mainly in big blue cities. We saw in Charlotte that young woman who, shortly before Charlie Kirk was assassinated, that was all we were talking about. She worked her pizza job. She was a refugee here from Ukraine, trying to get away from war, stabbed to death simply because she sat on a train and happened to be white. The guy said, I got that white girl, killed her on that train. It turns out the guy had been arrested 14 times. He was a convicted felon. He had a felony record. You've got people that are doing this across the country in these districts, in these counties where you've got Soros DAs not upholding the law. Sheriff, what can we do as a people? Because I don't think you can do it specifically, or else you already would have. What can we do about these DAs and prosecutors that are doing no cash bail, that are letting people out 14 different times, that are letting insane people out who have criminal tendencies and violent tendencies ride the metro in Charlotte? Can we do anything as a people other than vote differently?
Well, first and foremost, those no cash bails are normally legislative actions, maybe
Okay.
depending on the state, maybe at the city, county, or state level. And it comes back to who you elect to public office and who you allow to be in control. If you want to let criminals be in control, then you get young ladies stabbed on subways. They go, oh, he's mentally ill. Well, of course he's mentally ill. Normal people don't stab people.
Yes.
Normal people don't shoot people. So they all have mental health issues, but they're criminals. They're criminals. Do you hear what I say? And it does, but as long as it doesn't happen to you or your family or your friends, oh, it's not a big event. Well, to me, it's a big event. It's a
Yes.
big event when anyone's injured, and it's my job to protect everyone. And in the state of Florida, we have the laws in place so that we can keep people safe. New York does not have the laws in place necessary to keep people safe. Neither does Illinois, and neither does California. If you allow criminals to run wild, they'll run wild. If you allow criminals to bully and to take over the streets, they'll take over the streets. But I suggest this to you. You don't see people running amok in the state of Florida. You don't see people running amok in the state of Texas. The reason is because we have laws that allow us to make arrests. I'm all in favor of peaceful protest.
Yes.
And I'm sick to my stomach of watching the national news go, well, there was a protest out in front of ICE and you see them throwing rocks and bottles. That is not a peaceful protest. And we bust that kind of conduct up if it begins here. We don't allow it to spread and redouble its efforts.
You actually have it a leg up on us here in Texas, in Florida. I grew up in Florida, as you know, because in Florida, Ron DeSantis can, in fact, remove a DA who's not doing his or her job. Here in Texas, the legislature has to approve that, and the governor nor the attorney general has any power. They've got to change that here in Texas. One last question for you, Sheriff, and I smiled a little bit when I started this because you did a video the other day where a guy, it appeared, put a thermos in a place where a thermos shouldn't go. Now, I don't know how that happened, but you've been doing this a long time. Was that the craziest thing you've seen somebody do to themselves without dying?
Well, that was close to the craziest, and it wasn't appeared to be. He had that thermos way up the exit ramp. So far up, we had to get a surgeon to get it out. But we saved his life. Had we not arrested him, he would have had major league problems. And we asked him, why did you do that? And I'll give you the G-rated version. Well, it was a self-sexual event.
Stop it.
That kind of got away from him. You know what I mean?
Oh my goodness! I mean, the whole time I was tearing up, Sheriff, because the whole time you're taking a swig of your water from your water bottle. I mean, come on. Was it as big as it looked like it was on that X-ray?
Oh, it was. It was a full-size thermos, and I know you didn't study that body scanner like I did. But the top of that thermos was about the bottom of his rib cage. Now you think about that.
Oh my goodness!
That's way north in the southbound operation.
That's true. That's I-95 north when you should have been going south. It is Sheriff Grady Judd, Polk County Sheriff, polksheriff.org. We can't tell you how much I love you. You coming on the program. Those videos, keep them coming, and just keep on enforcing the law and keeping us safe. Thank you so much, Sheriff.
Talk to you soon.
All right, appreciate you. We're back after this. Stay right here.